What's up, everybody? Today I'm going to show you how to install LED flashing around your chimney. The first part of the video is going to stress a lot on the layout and how do you actually figure out your pattern and how do you make it aesthetically pleasing. That's something we're going to spend a lot on. And then obviously I'm going to show you how to actually install all of this, how to make all of the tough bends, and then basically start to finish tutorial is going to happen right here. Huge inspiration for this video came from Chad Williamcord. I watched a ton of his videos, so I do want to give you a shout out. You're awesome, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Let's get into it. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to properly install LED around your brick chimney. We're gonna go in depth on prep and kind of the setup. How do you actually know exactly where to cut everything in and how to make this look aesthetically pleasing? I know like we need to accomplish the function of basically waterproofing, which is kind of like putting in a skirt around this thing, but then at the same time I want it to be something where people pull in, they're like, dang, who did that LED? You know what I'm saying? So I want to make sure that it looks really good. So we're going to go through that process as well. And as I was watching a lot of tutorials online, I didn't see people really dive into that part as much. How far to measure, how do you balance things out? I didn't see a lot of people dive into that. The work itself, genuinely, no offense to people who do this for a living, no offense, it's not that hard. It's knowing what to do is the hard part. So today I'm going to show you how to do it. And if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to hit follow and subscribe because we're going to do tons more videos on how to basically rebuild your entire house. Let's get into the video. Let's talk about the planning and figuring out exactly where we're going to be making our cuts and how to balance this out and make it look pretty. So we need to basically align our dominoes to figure out how they fall. So one thing I know for sure that I have my ice and water shield, and when I was installing it, I wrapped it up as much as I could up our roof, but you see that it's kind of shredded and it's not 100% watertight. That's our attic right there. So we want to make sure that all of this is nicely sealed up. So this is kind of first line of defense. I know it's not perfect, but it will shed some water. I could cut this out and kind of redo it, but there's really no reason for it. So what I'm going to do first is I actually got one of these angles, which is it's designed to be a drip edge, and it has I got this from Home Depot, by the way, and it has a little bit of this like lip here, and that lip is actually going to perfectly pass over our caps over here. So what I'm going to do is picture this as a long sheet. I'm going to be placing one of them right here, and you'll basically kind of expand that out a little bit to make sure that it has nice tightness to it, and then we'll nail that in. Well, the cool part about that is this allows for me to kind of go right over those caps without having to make a big mess. So this will be the first thing that we're doing, and we're going to do this around the entire chimney with proper overlaps, and then we're going to waterproof the bottom of this to make sure that it's watertight. So this is our second line of defense. This is our last line of defense, which I know there's some cuts in it, but it's better than nothing, right? So I don't want to cut that out. So we're going to install that first. Then we're going to do our LED apron. So the first part of the LED apron is this bottom piece that's going to go right here, that's going to replace a shingle here. And if you got to figure out where you're going to be cutting that in. And for us, it's pretty straightforward that we're going to be cutting that in right at the top edge of this brick right here, because I need it to be above this guy, and I don't want to be cutting this up lower to kind of fit that in. When we're cutting out with our grinder is going to plunge into the cut here about an inch. So I want to make sure that I'm accounting for that when I'm trying to figure this out. So picture this is this is our LED, by the way, and we're going to be using 12-inch LED for the entire install, and I'll show you why. It'll kind of make sense. Different roofs, I guess. And again, this is overcompensating. You could go with 8-inch LED. It might be a little bit easier to work with, but if you can do a 12-inch LED and have bigger overlaps instead of minimum 3-inch overlaps, we're going to have like 6-inch overlaps, which I'm fine with. So this 1-inch bend that I have right here, picture this actually going in, but I don't have the cut made, so that's going to be going in. Then it's going to come down over the top of that and then sit like this. So this is our first piece of LED that we're going to be installing it across this entire thing. Next, so let me just kind of bend that so we see where that goes. Next, we're going to have another piece of lead that we're going to be installing. And again, this is now a 12-inch piece. And this piece, we want it to overlap this bottom apron. And for us now, we have to figure out where are we actually cutting that in. So again, I have that 1-inch bend that's going to go into the brick. So let's just kind of account for that. Now we're trying to figure out, okay, I want to make sure that it somehow goes over our bottom skirt here as well. So right there, if I go higher to this brick, it doesn't give me that overlap that I want. So now basically I have to go a step lower. So then if I go to this brick right here, I am getting that overlap. I'm happy with that. And that's kind of where I'm going to put it. There's really no other choice, because if I go lower, I don't like that. So we're going to go right here, and we're going to grab a Sharpie, and our cut is going to happen right here. So this is going to be the cut right at the top of this brick. We're going to make a nice, perfect cut right there. And that's going to be for this top piece of lead. And it's going to look really, really nice there. Then what do we say? We said on this one, our cut is going to go right here. So automatically we have 2 cuts that we are making on the front here to account for our apron. And then this first row of lead, like that. So our cut's going to be here. Every time I've seen these tutorials, our side piece of lead kind of comes here and then overlaps this. So it's kind of going to have this corner where we cut about 1 inch that way, then it's going to go this way. And because it's going 1 inch that way, we have a 12-inch piece of lead. We can say that our first cut here is going to go to about 11 inches because again, the lead is 12 inches. So our first cut is going to go here. And I'm going to put that one actually at the bottom here, like that, because as I'm stepping these, I'm gonna try to go towards the bottom side here because I want to see more of the grout here, just so the brick kind of has a full kind of view of it. Here I wanted to get as high as I could up so I don't have to deal with like as much bend, so that 1/2 inch will kind of play effect. But if you do have an option, if that makes sense, like so you see the full brick kind of like, you know, settled, you could have done that as well. Okay, so this is our starting point here. And what I'm gonna do now, and I hope that makes sense how we arrived to this point. We had no option. Yeah, sure, you could probably go here, but now you could have wind blowing in, water in there and things like that. So you don't want to do that. For us, because we live in New Hampshire, we're gonna have a ton of sitting snow here. I don't have any roofs. She's got a roof on it, but whatever. So like we're gonna have sitting snow right above here. So I want to make sure that my lead skirt here is pretty big, right? So now we have this as a 12-inch. Then what I'm gonna do is measure this and see what I'm getting. So right here, I'm getting 10-inch to my black Sharpie. From the bottom here, I'm gonna jam this in. I'm getting 10 inches. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to this side, basically the top here. And then we're gonna see where is the closest to 10 inches here for us. And for us, it's in the middle of that brick. Obviously, we don't cut brick in the middle of it. So you could either go to 9 or you could go to 11. And honestly, for me, I'm gonna go to 9 because we're still going to be overlapping from the back side here because of the cricket that we have here. So here we're gonna go to 9, but it's going to be to the top right there. All right, so now we have our starting point and we have our end. I'm not going to draw this out yet just because I want to see exactly where it falls. So we have our start and we have our finish here, because then once the back side of our lead with the cricket stuff, when that overlap, it's going to overlap here and then kind of come down. So now that's going to get us a little bit higher as well. So this right here is it's going to be a move that's really going to help you visualize everything. So for us, we have our 2 marks. I'm going to get some string, kind of leave it there, walk work around it. I'll end up in the same spot there. Going to grab some string here. A little bit higher. I want it to be basically at that mark that I set there. And then I want it to be at this mark right here. So let me make a knot right there. So I've got my string here, and this is exactly where I want my lead apron to go. There's different math you could do to try to figure this out, but I try to keep things as simple and visual as possible. What I'm gonna do here is I want to have at least an inch, let's say 1.5 inch wrap around right here to go and wrap around this front piece. So let's say we go 1.5 inch and then 12. So that's gonna put me about here with my 12-inch lead. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually grab my duct tape here. I'm gonna go 1.5 inches that way and then go to this mark that I mentioned, just because I want to make sure that I'm getting the proper overlaps on everything. So that's gonna go right there, and then this piece here symbolizes my first piece of lead. Okay, next, it's pretty straightforward, especially when you have a string like this. You're just moving up and up and up in every row and making sure that you have at least 3-inch overlap. And this is why we're using the 12-inch lead. So our next one, looking by the string, it's going to be right here. So our next piece of lead is going to start right there and then go 12 inches. So if it starts right at the string, goes 12 inches, it's going to end right there for me. So again, I'm gonna grab my piece of tape like that. Whoops. I'm gonna grab my piece of tape there, go to 12 inches. Let's just rip this. There, about 12 inches, and go there. That will be my second piece of lead that's being cut in. What we want to make sure is that this overlap here is at least 3 inches. And for us, when we're overlapping this, right there, we're at 3.5. We're almost at 4 inches. This will get bigger because we kind of lost a little bit of this. As we go up, that should get bigger. So this one is a little bit smaller, I guess. So now our next row, again, we're just basically want to be right at the tip of that that string, and then 12 inches is going to put me out here. This right here was the hardest part when I was watching all those tutorials and trying to figure this out. Nobody just showed me this. This was, like, to me, the most frustrating part, is to figure out how to actually set it up and make it look nice. Because for us, once this thing is done, it's going to look like a Rolls Royce here. If you like those types of cars, but I don't. It's just a saying. It'll make it look like a really nice Chevy. All right, so that's our next piece. Every row of brick touching the line is where we're going to be putting it. So now look at this overlap that we're having here. So this overlap here now is almost 6 inches, 5.5 inches. So, not rocket science. Where are we putting our next piece? Right here. Our next piece is going to go right there, and it's a 12-inch piece of lead. It's going to go to about there. And again, I'm going to be cutting it in at the bottom of the, like at the top of the brick, the bottom of my grout line, because I like the visual, like brick, if that makes sense. Okay, so now again, we're going to go here. Bang. About 12 inches. And remember, whatever we're doing on this side is just, we're mirroring on the other side. So I'm not even going to show you guys the other side much, but this is going to be our, I think, our steps. And again, just to verify, we're at about 5 3/4 on this. And then we're going to go here and then continue up. So here's what that flashing will look like for us. This last piece kind of wraps around this way. I'm going to cut it down a little bit shorter. So one, it kind of hugs this corner. This corner is going to be very crucial for us to kind of overlap it nice. But I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter so it doesn't have to go that far. So realistically, it's probably going to end up being closer to that. So now this is going to be our backside, and backside, I'm going to want this to be overlapping this entire side here. So let's say we have a 12-inch piece of lead right here, and then it's going to go almost to that brick right there. So I'm going to put my mark right there. That's where this piece will go. Yeah. I know this might look silly to some people, but to me, this is the easiest way to go about this. You visually understand everything that's happening. So it'll go like this. That's gonna be our 12-inch piece of lead. It's gonna come down. It's gonna hug this corner again. So we have this piece of lead that's going here. Then we're gonna have another corner that overlaps it. And then it's gonna come out this way and then kind of hug around this top. Then this is my center of the chimney here. So let's find the center of the, honestly, the center is what visually is the center, and for us is the center of this cricket, which is about there, which is basically around there. So now I need another 12-inch piece of lead. So we're gonna go 6 inches, which is to there, and then to there, okay? So then I'm getting another piece that's going to then go from there to there. Like that. So this piece will actually, this is going to be a fun piece to bend, because then this piece will be the last piece that we put on, because once we're done with, easy, come on. This happens with guys over 40. Easy. All right. So we're going to do this, overlap it. It's going to come out nicely this way. Whatever, you get what we're doing here. This one's going to overlap. Then that entire side from that side has to happen as well. It's going to overlap here. And then this is going to be the last piece that we cut in there. And that's going to basically overlap this, these two pieces, and this, and then make our chimney finish from the back side. So now step back, go down if you need to go down, step back and visualize it and take a look at it. Does it make sense? Does it look good? Do you need to go up higher? For us, our chimney's not that long. I don't really want to go higher. I think this is more than enough coverage that I'm going to get. We're getting almost 6 inches of overlap on all of our lead. I'm happy how it's going to look. Looks professional aesthetically. I think it's going to look really, really nice. Now you can basically, once you've done all of this part, you're going to do the exact same thing on the other side. Now we're going to come back, mark it with our Sharpie, because it's permanent Sharpie, right? We're going to mark it with our Sharpie and then start getting it ready for our cutting, and then the lead and everything else. But today's goal, I think, is to figure everything out, cut everything, clean everything up, because it's going to be really dusty up here. Clean everything up, and then tomorrow I'm probably going to come in and start leading everything. So let's go make our Sharpie marks. And again, step back, look at it. To me, like, that's why I put a crown on the chimney. That's why, like, it has to look good. If it doesn't look good, then what are we doing here? You know what I mean? So now I'm going to grab my Sharpie, because I'm going to have to take this off, because once I start cutting, things are going to start flying around here. I want to make sure that I have a good Sharpie line. So I'm going to go basically mark it to where I need to go, take this off, and then I know that I'm starting right from where the string is, and then I'm going to be cutting right above that brick line, like that, like this. So I'm going to make sure that I have nice Sharpie mark on every single, and we're going to be cutting a little bit past it just because the blade is round, and we're going to have to give us just a little bit more room. So now I'm just basically gonna go there, take this off, and then make my marks. right, so when it comes to cutting our grooves for the lead flashing, all I'm using is a masonry bit. I don't want to take too much stuff out because I'm not really going to be repointing in them. I'm going to be installing them a little bit differently. So just this masonry bit works fine. When you do cut it in, we're going to go back and forth a couple of times. Just I want to make sure there's nothing in there, and I do want to make sure that it's just a little bit bigger than this so that my lead has a little bit of room to get in there and kind of wiggle in. And then when I do plunge this, I'm basically going to plunge it until I hit this bumper right here, which was going to give me a depth of over 1 inch, 1 1/4, let's say 1 1/8 that I'm going to get. So I want to make sure that I'm using that. You want to make sure also you're wearing a mask. These are the types of masks that I've liked the most. One, because you have the respirator, but two, you kind of have a really nice vision and these don't fog up. Make sure you're doing that, okay? So let's set this up and start cutting this in. This is the messiest part of the entire thing. Everything else is nice and clean and kind of less hectic. So before I get too crazy and carried away with this, I'm gonna grab my piece of lead and see to make sure that it actually fits nicely in there, and it does. I mean, look at that. And then we're gonna be bending out of that. It works, huh? Huh? So all the cutting is done, looks awesome. Our lead fits so well in it. I'll link those blades in the video because they are awesome. And it's literally perfect thickness that we need right there. I mean, take a look at that. So this is basically a representation of what it's going to look like. We're going to have a bottom apron, and then this first piece of lead's going to overlap that. And then this piece of lead is going to overlap this one and all that stuff. But remember, the very first thing I'm doing is I'm adding a redundancy here, which is going to be just an extra layer of waterproofing that's literally going to cost us 50 bucks, maybe 40 bucks, whatever price you can find those angles for. And I'm just going to add that right there. Oh, let me actually center it. So what I'm looking for an overlap here is 3 inches, because this next one is going to basically cover it. So that's perfectly 3 inches there. Just gonna mark it in the back here. Mark it here. I need to do a better mark than that. Mark it and cut both sides and then bend them down. So when I put this piece down, because it's a 90, this is pushing out. So obviously that's not good. So what I'm gonna do is simply take that and just bend it back to get the pitch that I want. So here's what this piece looks like so far. I'll kind of go like this. Then I'm gonna get my mallet and then just kind of bend this around it. So we're going to just like this. Funny thing is, a lot of people, this is their flashing. This is how they will do it. Done. For us, this is our second line of defense. It's an overkill because we're DIYing this and we want to just go way overboard. And honestly, it's not that expensive to do this for us. Also, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Flashmate. Again, got this at Home Depot. And what I'm going to do is basically just add a bead of silicone right underneath here to make sure that there's no water that could be getting in there. And then I'm also going to add a bead of silicone on this side as well to make sure that nothing gets in there. I didn't do this on the bottom because if there's ever anything that does get onto here, you do want it to come out and go this way. I might add it right here actually at the end to make sure off the valley, because our valley in a perfect world would have been at least a foot further this way, but it's not. So we have to deal with what we have, and that valley sketches me out. So I'm gonna add some silicone right underneath here to make sure that nothing goes under there. Let's take a look here. So when I place this down here, push the corners in, push the corner in like this. You see this gap? I don't really like that gap because it's going to be fighting me the entire way. So what we're going to do is just open this corner up a little bit, just kind of like that, so that when we push against it, the brick wants to kind of, you know, it's basically a bigger corner and we'll be able to squish it in there. And then, you know, okay, so now when I push this in here, I'm gonna have to like almost bang it in there. Oh, look how much better that is, right? A little trick like that. Bang. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add sealant on this side and on that side in order to make sure that that's also waterproof. So I'm just gonna add a ton of silicone here. This is flexible silicone, so it will stretch and bend and do everything that it needs to do in order to kind of move with this. That's the thing with all of this, is that the chimney is moving up and down as it's warming up because of the sun. Same thing with the roof. So you have to make sure that these things are not attached kind of physically together, if that makes sense. This corner right here is just going to be a bit of an issue for me. Again, second line of defense, so we're doing the best we can just to kind of overkill it. All right, so we're gonna get this right into here. Now the last thing I'm going to do, especially in these corners, things like that, is I'm going to use some of this pellet flashing tape. This is hands down the best flashing tape that I've ever worked with. We flashed this stuff. We almost ripped off the ice and water shield when we were taking some of this off. So it's really, really good flashing tape. So I want to make sure that I tape all this up, especially where you have those nail penetrations. So things like this, I'm just gonna go right over it like that, over my nails. I'm gonna add one more in the corner here, but I just wanna make sure that this is sealed and that once the heat hits this stuff as well, forget about it. So now this is what it looks like from this side of the chimney. And all we have to do is do it again from the other side. So one more thing that I'm gonna do to kind of literally and figuratively top this off is just, I'm gonna add a little bit of that silicone right there at the top as well. I know I have it here, but I don't want any sitting water there if it ever gets there. Again, should not be any water here, but this doesn't hurt to do, and silicone is kind of cheap, so we're just gonna go ahead and do it. And then just squishing it in. It does not have to be, this is not a shower glass door that you're caulking. Just smush it in like that, and then just kind of wipe it away. All right, so now we're gonna be installing our first piece of lead, and it's this apron at the bottom. So what I'm gonna do is basically measure my base, which is 24 inches, and then I'm going to go about 5 inches on both sides for it to extend. So basically we're talking about 34-inch piece of lead that I'm going to cut. And then we're gonna start to try to figure out how to shape all of this. I'm gonna show you guys something that's kind of taking me off a little bit. So I have one piece of lead here, same store. I got them both from Lowe's. Look, this one looks really nice. I'm happy with it. I have this piece of lead. Look at this. Look at this mess. 179 bucks I paid for one of these. So I'm gonna return this one, and I'm gonna say that it's corroded or something. I know maybe in the comments you guys are gonna say that eventually this will all gonna look nice, or like it will all look like this, but I'm not with that. So I'm gonna return that. I still have one that I could at least get me started. Tonight I'm gonna go return that. I mean, I don't know. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd do. Because like I'm about to spend all this time trying to make this look so nice. I better get a nice clean thumbnail out of it. Like I'm not getting corroded lead. Obviously, like, you know, to each his own. It's all right. We need 34. So 34 will be right there. I'm gonna make my mark. Then the easiest way to do this. Also, it's nice that we have the scaffolding here. Like I know some of you guys might not have that luxury, so it sucks. Just rent it. Honestly, scaffolding's super cheap to rent. Like $30 a day or something for it. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead, use a box cutter, score it in, follow that line just a little bit more aggressively. Bang. And I'm gonna do it again. And cut it all the way through. Isn't that crazy? Metal, cutting with a box cutter. Okay, so that's our first. What I'm gonna do is just let it kind of chill right here in the sun. And then I'm gonna put it on the roof. The hotter it is, the easier it is to work with it. So what I'm gonna do actually is get all this dirt off it. Put it on the roof, and then we can start working on our little holders. So those two pieces that I was using as the sample, what I'm gonna do is basically tack them in right here. Basically right at the top. One. These will be visible from the other side, so my OCD will freak me out. So what I'm gonna do, from the corner, I'm about a 3.5 to the edge. So here, I'm gonna go about 3.5 to the edge there, and then put my nail in there as well, like that. It's gonna be kind of hard to grab the piece of lead, and then unless we did a really amazing job and we are super good. Let's see if this will work. Let's go. Look at that. So easy. Okay, so before I let it go, I'm going to measure to make sure that I'm 5 inches on both sides. This way it's there. Like that, 5 inches. All we're gonna do now is just kind of let go of it. We're in the back. We're going to let go of it, and then work this in. And very lightly start to shape this in, this little edge. Just like that. Okay, so here, look, I'm gonna press that all the way in. Like that. Take this guy, just so it doesn't keep sliding out, and then bend it up. Okay, so now that's holding it. So that's so nice. That's the first one of the day. So here we're looking at about to this mark 5. So here, oh wow, we're in a good shape. About 1/8 of an inch away. Okay, 1/8 of an inch away. We have a little bit of room to get tighter here. Okay, and then we're just going to get the holder up so you can start holding. We're going to trim that down to make it look nice. All right, so now we need to bend this down. This corner has to be on the ground there. The way we're going to do it is I'm going to grab the back side here. Here, I'll show from this side. We're going to end up with the crease kind of like right here. So what we're going to do is bend the back side like that and almost like fold it over. And then start shaping it. Like that. So I have this one mallet here that has a nice roundness to it, and it's literally just stretches this metal out. Very lightly, just kind of the weight of the hammer or the little mallet, whatever this is, just floating over it. See, this wants to come up, so if I crease it a little bit, basically give it a crease from the corner here to here.
Give it a relief. See if we can make that work.
By the way, these corners that we're bending is the hardest part of this whole thing. Everything else from here, like all of these ones are a joke. This right here is the hard part. And now look, I'm going to just kind of work from this edge. Go like that. And look, we're bending metal. And very lightly, just turn it over a little bit. Let me fold this over just because I have another piece that's going to be coming down here, and I want to make sure that this is kind of nicely worked. So again, very lightly. Working on that. Just got a split right here. God dang it. You see it right at the top? I'm okay with the one at the top. I don't want it to happen here at the bottom, because then that would mean a failure. Dang, look at that, Alex. Show it like this. All the way around. Look how good this looks in the front here. A little split at the top. We can live with that because it'll get covered. What we're going to be doing is then comes this piece that's going to overlap this. So here we really want to make sure it's nice and flat. It doesn't have to aesthetically look super clean because it's about to get covered as well. So let's cut this piece now and then do the exact same thing. All right, so have myself a little 5-inch mark right here, so I know exactly where that's gonna go. I'm just gonna make sure that this edge is nice and clean. Not clean, just like stretch it out a little bit. Start out at the center. Right there. And tip it up, see if we can get this in. Right there. There we go. Here we go. And I'm on my 5-inch mark there. And then we're just simply going to press that in and let the gravity as I force it down. So actually these things are in the way now. I'm gonna cut them down to about 1 inch. That's all you really need. With this one. Okay, now just work these kinks out. I don't want to have any of that. What you're gonna do is just kind of grab it and then kind of fold that over. So here. This is going to take that same similar shape that we had before. And I'm going to want this to stay here. See? See, this crease is forming. That's exactly what we're going to end up having. But let's control it. Right now, mentally, I'm thinking, dang, this looks so bad in terms of like this. Breathe. This is overwhelming. Just power through it. Not literally power through it, just shape it. Keep shaping it, keep shaping it. And then at the end, it's going to kind of shape up nice. This edge right here is going to get covered by this piece right here. So really what we're looking for is just flat, like flatness, if that makes sense. So I'm just gonna try to follow that crease that I have on the other side. Look at the little micro hits that we're doing here. This is all very gentle. And then this piece right here looks like it wants to come this way, but I'm just gonna tighten that up a little bit. So on this piece right here, I'm just gonna basically turn it over and send it to the front. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna leave that and I'll start shaping this side. So this is what both of them look like. Honestly, it's tedious. It's tedious. This is the hardest part of the entire install, but I'm happy how it looks. We still have this piece that's going to come down and wrap around this. So we'll kind of cover some of this. We'll try to make it as aesthetically pleasing as we can. Now we have to set this in, and I am going to use silicone that we used before to do it, and then kind of pin it in. Let me show you how. So step one is both of these pieces have to come out. So we were basically like doing all of that for nothing. I'm just kidding. We're basically done with that. Okay. Then here we got to undo these little ears as well. And slide this guy out. You don't have to go too far with it. Remember, we're gonna have to try to get it back in there. So I don't have to go crazy with that. I'm not gonna go too far with it. Now I'm going to pump that seam with this sealant. Again, this is Flash Mate. I'm gonna pump that with sealant, and then get this piece in there. Okay, I want to make sure this is nice and straight. What I'm gonna do is get a little bit of lead, and then I'm going to make a little wedge, just like this. And then in some of these bigger gaps, if I can, I'm going to try to go like that and jam that in there. You will be surprised how much that little guy is holding. Now to top it off, I'm going to make sure that this is nicely siliconed. And now we just got to repeat the process for this guy as well. So we're going to pump some silicone in there and basically do the exact same thing we just did. So here's what we were able to do on the day one. We siliconed these two pieces in, and again, we're only adding silicone right at the top here, so it's going to be kind of holding it in. And I do add those little wedges in there. You'll be surprised how much that actually holds. This was day one. We were able to get all of the prep done. We were able to get all the cutting done, all of the layout, and two of the hardest pieces that we have to do, we got done. So next, we just have to install our actual LED flashing, like the step flashing, and then do the back. The back is easy. Let's get into it. All right, so it's the next day and we're getting back to working on this. And the first thing I want to do is actually get my shingles underneath here before it gets too late, because once I start overlapping this, it'll be harder to do that. So to get our shingles underneath it, it's actually pretty simple. So we have to get our shingles underneath our flashing here. It's actually super simple. It's designed to be able to to do this, because once you do your flashing around the chimney like this, you should be able to replace all your shingles without actually having to basically remove any of this stuff. So it's going to go like this. I'm actually going to take these little ears out first so that I could they'll be in the way. I'm going to take the little ears out. Just like this. I'm going to fix all that. Yeah, if lead flashing is done properly, you should be able to replace all of your shingles a couple times if you wanted to and keep the lead flashing as is. So now I'm going to slide my shingle under here. Looks like I'm butting into the back of the chimney, so I'm going to have to cut it down just a little bit. That. So it looks like from here to there, I'm going to take a little bit off of it. Happy how that's lined up right there. Again, you don't really want to be nailing in the valley too much, so I'm just going to put a couple nails right here. I'll have 2 nails that are going to be there, and then the other couple nails, once this is going to go there, like that. I don't think the compressor is on. And goes our second piece here. Just kind of lining it up with our shingles. I want to get under this one. Oops. So now that we have the shingle in, I can get this bottom piece kind of back over it. And then I do still want to keep these little flaps though, because they're going to take some of the pressure off of it. So let's say it's going to go here. There. Let's see if I can nail that in. The other one will go right here. I don't want to get too close to our valley here with that. So that's going to go right there. Bang. This comes back down. Get our mallet. Massage it. This is why lead is awesome for all of this stuff here. And these ears then go back over it. Like that. Technically, if everything goes according to plan, the next time that somebody's going to be touching this is in like 10 years from now, when we're adding another layer of shingles or something like that. So I'm really happy how this looks. Then this piece right here is just going to bend down and then go over the top right here and kind of fix what we had, because I'm gonna have this next shingle that's gonna go here, I want that to overlap actually this stuff. I don't want it to be kind of go under here. I want it to overlap all of these overlaps. Just like that. See how strongly that silicone is holding that in? At the same time, it's giving you all that like expansion, like freedom to move it. Because if you were to do that with mortar, it's such a skinny little thing of mortar to put in there. It's going to be really hard to do that successfully unless you're removing the entire grout line or mortar line or whatever. And I think that would be way harder to work with that. Okay, so here, knock this down a little bit too. Flatten this out. This next shingle here is going to cover it like that, and then keep going. Cool, so we are done with that one. So I can go ahead now actually, and I just want to get this one in before I got this piece in, because once I do this one, it's going to kind of build this up even more. It's going to be even harder for me like to fold that up. So now we can go ahead and start thinking about our step flashing on the side right here. Let's get into it. In my stories last night when I was showing the work here, some people made a suggestion to maybe just tape the rest of the flashing here as well, because it might not be a good idea to have two metals touching each other if they get wet. We're hoping none of this ever gets wet, but again, I already have the tape here, so I might as well just do it. And I just want to let you guys know that, just so you're not like, what happened to that angle there? Okay, so I'm gonna go like this and then add one more here to shed any water that we might have. This Pella flashing tape is the bee's knees. It's what all the high school kids are going crazy about. So we're gonna install this and then continue our step flashing. So now we have this corner to deal with, and this corner, so this piece of lead will kind of come around a little bit and then come down this, and I want it to be able to wrap this all of this built up here and kind of just cover it nice. So I'm gonna give it about 1.5 inch reveal going that way. So 1.5 inch is going to be sticking out past here. So as I put this piece of lead in here into this piece here, I'm going to be looking 1.5 inches. That's that reveal there, maybe just a little bit more. And then you'll notice that I'm going to just pull it out just a little bit this way. See, like this is flat. I'm going to pull it out just a little bit. You'll kind of see why this bottom corner basically kicks out more, so we need to pull it back out a little bit more for that. So we'll go right here and then just start to shape it like that. So this is gonna go in here. This is gonna look pretty cool, the effect that this is gonna give here. It's gonna be really, really nice. So then I'm going to basically start to turn this over. I think I want to have it come out just a little bit more. Okay. Nice and tight here. Then we're gonna turn this. Yeah, I'll actually switch with Alex so he can come on this side so you guys can see. All right, new video. So I'm gonna grab my mallet and just start turning this like that. And you'll see how this hugs basically that all that busyness that we have here. And look at all this overlap that we're getting here. It's pretty incredible. This just basically you rough shape it first, and and then you start to work it into the spots here, okay? You see how nicely that's covering all of that stuff that we had there? Look at that. And then this piece at the top, I'm going to then bring it down like this. Honestly, I think I'm just gonna, what do I want to do with that? I don't really like that look, so I might actually switch that around and push this piece down first, like that. Putting pressure on this corner right here. I'm just focusing on that corner, and then this is gonna go around the front. Oh yeah. Look how much nicer that looks. Better, Alex? Yep. That looks so much better. Okay, so then we're just gonna kind of work on that like this, and then shaping it kind of how we want it. What I'm gonna do is kind of put a little pressure here. Shape it down. Honestly, so this right here is pretty much exactly what we want. I can take this down and just bend it a little bit like this, just so that when I put it in, it's gonna be nice and tight like that. Look at that. See what I'm talking about here, guys? All right, so before, I'm gonna shape it just a little bit more, but what I wanna do is basically just fix this piece in to make sure it's not going anywhere, which means that I gotta put the silicone in there, silicone on the back side of this, and then those little wedges that are actually going to hold this in. Then at the end, I'm going to just kind of shape that to finish. So let me get my silicone. All right, so I got my silicone. I'm gonna take this off, just like that. I'll put a bead of silicone right in here. You want to make sure that it's getting way in the back, like you're filling it. You're not just trying to close the gap, you're trying to fill it. Okay? And you saw how well this holds just when we were lifting this up. What's crazy and the best part about this is this stuff is so stretchy. This will stretch like almost ½ an inch for you. So when the expansion and contraction of materials happens here, this will move with it. And that's something that is missing when you are working with pointing it. But I don't know, I just feel like when you're trying to put mortar in there, you're going to end up putting so much work into it, when it's actually going to be really hard to do that like perfectly, right? The best time to do it honestly would be during the construction of the fireplace itself, of the chimney, but I think it's really hard to do that during the construction. Like, the amount of work we have to do around it would be really hard. Whatever. All right, ready? So now this is going to go in. Just bang it in. Then I have this little wedge right here. And I'm gonna just put it right in the front. Do another one right here. I'm gonna see if I can squeeze one little guy in the back there as well. A little bit harder now because it's a really tight cut there. shot. That's so tight in there. So honestly, this is gonna be perfect in here. That's so tight. We have all that silicone there. I do have these 2 wedges in the front. There, now we're just gonna kind of final shape it. There it goes. I'm gonna final shape that. Right there. I just want it to really kind of hug that seam that we have. See, so I'm kind of stretching it out that way. And then kind of around it. Bang. Just like that. This one is done. That was super satisfying and super easy to do. Now we're just going to actually silicone the gap itself. Oh jeez, look at that. So easy little bead of silicone. This thing just pulled out, so I'm gonna get a bigger wedge in there. Pause it. Pause it. Now we're talking about this one. Super easy. Basically, I want to make sure that I'm getting at least like a 5-inch like fan out like this, and then it's going to be inch and a half, like it's going to be torque cut, and then about an inch in. So I need to cut it about 15 3/4. Yeah, 15 3/4. I'm gonna cut that piece. All right, so we're getting ready to install this piece. I already have it pre-cut. The first thing I'm gonna do though is, and you don't necessarily have to do this. I'm gonna step back to here. You don't have to do this, but because I like things to look aesthetically really nice, because I need a thumbnail to be nice and stuff, I'm gonna set that nice and plumb, and then with my pencil, I'm gonna make that mark right there. This way, when I'm installing this piece, I can follow that mark, and then obviously it's going to look professional. So because we have that blade in there, this first corner, because when we were cutting it, there's a radius right there. I have to kind of try to mirror that radius a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of cut off that, if that makes sense, so that when that goes in right there, I can get that nice and tight right there. Okay, so now we're going to come down, and all I'm looking at, so I'm flush up against it, all I'm looking at is that pencil line that I made. And I'm just gonna want to follow it, so the back's gotta pull out a little bit. Right there, I really like how that looks. Press that down, go for this, and then just smooth that out. Sure that I'm on the pencil line. Very close. Happy with that. That's literally all you have to do now. Moving forward, it's just basically that exact thing, and just keep verifying your measurements to make sure that this will get fixed up once I seal this in. Again, literally, we're just gonna take this off. We're gonna take this off and get our silicone, do the silicone, and then kind of repeat the process here. Get close on that. So as we're doing more of this and moving up, do not silicone anywhere else. Only silicone right at the top to make sure that this joint basically is nice and tight. Nothing's gonna move. This needs to be able to move right here. That's the whole design of this entire like thought process, is you'd be able to bend this up, put new shingles there, bend it down. Do not silicone here, don't silicone here, don't silicone anywhere else underneath here. This is all designed to allow for the water to be able to shed. So don't do that, okay? This looks so cool. Really, like, that was the hard part. Now we're getting into the part where it's like, honestly, you just kind of relax and you're doing this. I am setting everything nice and plumb just because I think it's fun to make things look really nice. And, you know, I want all the people who are ever like visiting me to be like, who did that flashing? I'll be like, I don't know, some handsome Ukrainian guy. Look at me. Yeah. All right, so now we're to this interesting little corner here. So I have a 2-inch overhang that I'm gonna send that way. I do have my plumb line here. So first things first, we're going to bend it to that plumb line and see how that looks. Like that. So we gotta do one thing at a time, and then the middle will talk to you and tell you what it wants. Okay, so that's going to go like this. I have that overlap, and this is, for us, is gonna have to go around this way. So we're going to grab our mallet now and start shaping it around the corner here. It's gonna be kind of hard. Next piece that we're going to have here is going to overlap this, but I want to make sure that this does go all the way back here. We're getting there, slow and steady. Remember, we just gotta massage it into place. Let the metal stretch. It's not gonna stretch at once. Remember, this corner right here also will get covered. This will get covered here. So really what we're focusing on is flatness. So we want to make sure this is nice and flat. All right, so here's kind of what we came up with. I'm not gonna put this in or secure this in yet. I think I want to get this piece in here first to really see how my overlaps here are going to work out. Let's do that first. All right, so now we're gonna get this piece in right here, and I'm going to send it out about 1.5 inches here, just a little over 1.5 inches, and let's see kind of what's gonna happen here. Look, this right here is not quite enough. So I think I can slide it out a little more. I have a tolerance here of 3 inches, right? So if I'm here, I still have about there where I can go with it. See, now this is giving me a little bit more here. We want this overhang to be bigger, closer to 3, but it'll come out right there. Okay, just like that. Well, that's 4, so I have more room. Let me just take as much as it will give me in the way. Really, what I'm concerned about is kind of here. Okay, so that will go here. This will kind of bend in. This will kind of start to want to go this way. Okay, so kind of just banging this in, holding that, trying to see. Where does this want to go? I think this one's another seam. This one's a seam. So if I go here and give it a place to go, kind of let's create a seam for it. Okay. Let's see. So go back into it. There we go. Start to turn this a little bit here. I need it to come out more like this. This way. Pause for me. I'm a little more like basically worried about this area, not necessarily the top here, because the top there, I just needed to wrap the brick, okay? And it's definitely not a nice plumb line there. So I'm just gonna nip that off. I think it's going to make sense. Hopefully it doesn't come and bite me in the butt after. But I want that visually from the road. I don't want to see this like weird thing here. So I'm going to actually just go ahead and cut this lead off. So a less lead to fight with, and will kind of even everything out for me on this side. So then it will kind of go like this. See if I can add this a little bit more here. Alright, so our first attempt at doing this resulted in this crack, and it's just not, it's already like it's gonna be a lot of water kind of coming off of here with this crack and everything. We're only left with like 3-inch, whatever. I'm gonna see if I can do better. So one of the things I noticed, if I can come out more like this, it kind of comes into this area more, which means that this top piece here, I'm gonna cut it on an angle like that. So if you can see that, this is 17, this is 18. So what I'm gonna do is basically come in here like that on an angle, which will then kind of automatically kick that piece out this way, just by the way it is. Just go like that, force it into the thing here. And then also what I'm gonna do is, because it is cold, a little bit cold outside, it's like 43 degrees, 42 degrees. I'm gonna heat this up a little bit and see if it's a little bit easier to work with. Heating it up definitely makes it a lot more workable. And you have to be, I think, more mindful now of a lot of pinholes and stuff. So I need it to come out this way, okay? This has to kind of go here. Yeah, heating it up definitely made it a little more workable, but you have to be very careful because it does melt it right here. I did a little test here to see what happens if you don't stop, so you have to be very careful. So basically we need to like bunch it up that way. Kind of go ahead and do what I did in the last one and cut off a lot of this material, because again, I don't really need such an aggressive overlap from the back side, and it's, you know, it's in the way. So I'm gonna remove it. See if that makes things a little bit easier for us. Let's look, if I just crease it, I can create a crease right here. Ooh. Look at that. I think that might have helped. So now it brings that into play a little bit better. Let's see. If I go like this. Gentle, Misha. brought this closer this way. That's kind of what we want. And now I'm gonna see if I can bend this out. This is harder than the one in the front we did. All right, so this is kind of what we came up with here. I needed Alex to really help me actually because he was holding this in while I was shaping the rest of it. But this will get covered by shingles anyway to here. So realistically, all you're going to see is kind of right there. But it's like I had to like bend material underneath itself. What I'm gonna do is clean this up a little bit. I don't really like that bump out, so I should be able to just simply pull that out and then cut this just like that. Yeah, this was by far the hardest cut so far on the not cut but shaping on the entire chimney by far. Like that. Just make sure I don't see any pins and needles. I don't. Again, we do have all the redundant flashing there, but still. It's gonna go like this. Like that. And then like that. So all I have to do now is install both of these with silicone and the little wedges. And then this entire side is done. This I'm gonna do at the very end once the other side is wrapped around as well. Then you kind of cover it this way. So let's finish this up. All right, so now we're gonna start shingling. Shingling is pretty simple. What we're gonna do basically is make sure that we're not shooting nails into our lead flashing. So basically we have this much room to shoot the shingles into. I'm gonna line them up like this, and then kind of do it up. Then as we go here, now I'm gonna start weaving the shingle underneath our flashing. So when I'm measuring this, I'm making sure that I'm stepping back at least 1/4 of an inch away from here. You don't want to be too tight in there. When things get hot and everything on the roof, you don't want things to be tight, okay? So bang, bang, bang. That's going to be this one. Next one just goes under this one, onto this one. There's one more thing I have to show you. We're going to get into a weird little spot there, but I'll show you a trick to deal with that. So this is the spot that I was gonna bring up. So here we basically have a 1-inch strip that we would have to install, which means we would have to nail right through all of our flashing that we did. So we're not gonna do that. So instead what we're gonna do is basically get under that flashing there, get it to where we want it on the side there, nail this in, bang, bang, then it's gonna be like that. And then we're just gonna add a 1-inch strip over here. Over here, like we have a really nice overlap. There's nothing that we're concerned about here. There, we're concerned about that. So we're gonna make sure that we're not doing that there, okay? So don't do that. Let's finish this up. So here's another thing I wanna show you guys. So you see right here, if the water was going to go, it would go right under that shingle. That's not cool. And then especially if I then go to the next one right here, again, water would go under that. That's not cool. We don't want that. So we want to, all we're going to do is then send this shingle underneath right here. This way we're getting that water shedding that we want. Proper water shedding. You see what I mean? So now when the water goes, if it ever gets under that, it just runs off the shingle and keeps going. So we want to make sure that if you get to a point, or if it's the other way around where it starts to stick out, because sometimes when the angles of the roof and things work out, this might be sticking out too much and you end up cutting this off. Don't cut it off. Just add another shingle and you're kind of like resetting yourself. So that's fine. We're now going to just nail this in. And we're almost done. So you'll end up basically making a bunch of of your own shingles. See, like right here, I prioritize getting a full shingle in, but now basically I had to cut one in. All you want to make sure is you're just staggering your seams. If you are kind of close, like this seam, I'm just getting a little bit of silicone, patching those up, make sure no water gets into those. And then here we're just going to line this up. And then kind of finish it. Look how cool that looks. We did that. Let's go. All right, so now we're installing this corner piece, and I'm not gonna mess around with it. I'm putting silicone all over it here, just to kind of, this is where it all starts in the way, and I want to make sure that everything here is nice and watertight. So this kind of goes right here. Here, just like that. Slides over, and this piece, well, actually there's a special little crease that unintentionally happened for it. Look at that, huh? See what I'm doing? See what we're doing here? I can kind of bend that over it. Look at that. So that's kind of how we're going to finish this one. And then the next one, honestly, probably, because I do have silicone here, I do not want any water getting at the top of this entire system here. So I'm probably going to add a little bit more of that here at the top. And then our next shingle will kind of go this way as well, but I got to figure out how to shingle around this cricket. But yeah, so this is kind of more or less what our entire job here looks like. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Take your time when you're doing this. I've watched hours and hours and hours of tutorials, and this is kind of how I felt I would have preferred to have watched the tutorial. I wanted to make sure that we could see all of the prep. The prep is the biggest part that I thought was missing from all the other tutorials out there. We have so many other projects planned. We're about to install steel siding. We're going to be building a massive detached garage out of ICE panels. So if you guys like construction, if you like learning new things, make sure to hit follow and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.